and I've only got 20 or 30 minutes to do a little bit of streaming. So let's see what I can work on. I was jumping back into TrainRemote after having been off of it for a little while. So I wanted to share kind of what kind of progress I'd made. Oh, you know what I normally do? I normally pull up the chat. Let's pull up the chat. Oh, that's annoying. Chat. Get out of my face, please. I just want to pop out the chat. Gosh. All right, chat, pop out. There's got to be like a chat client for this or something so that I don't have to do this whole thing. There you go, cool. Welcome to the chat room. Okay, so let's take a look. I did some work. So last time I did anything from TrainRemote, I was working on this little doohickey where I wanted to be able to drag and drop things around, and I was struggling a lot, and I actually have a functional version of it. So I ended up going with the same Sortable implementation that I was working with at that point. Let's see, TrainRemote. So there's this basically Sortable, what is it, vSortable.js. I did a little bit of tweaking on it, so I want to show what the tweaking is. But essentially we've got this this external code that I copied in. It's not quite a library, but it's just a convenience that he showed to wrap this sortable library. So we're pulling in the actual sortable library. We got it through npm, and we're basically creating this export that has a couple methods that basically wraps this sortable. So basically, when you're binding it, you're manually setting some parameters, but you can also see this is setting it on this.param.options. And so there's basically this.param.options, this.param.eventName, which are things that you can pass in every single time you use this sortable thing. I was going to say mixin, but I don't think it's a mixin. I forget what this is called, so I'll tell you as soon as I find it. But when you create it, it basically takes those params and event names. It manually tells it what to do every single time Sortable does the onUpdate thing. So basically, when you drop something, what to do. And then it basically creates a sortable instance on this element that we're working on right now with these options. And then when you drop it, it calls this right here. And by default, the guy who implemented this it's the value, which I found actually very unuseful. Of all of it's basically an array that's a value of the IDs of all of the. It goes like this. And it's just these weird kind of like string hashes or something like that for all of the things that you're dragging and dropping. And so if you like drag this one and drop it, it'll now look like this. And I think it has something to do with that whole data ID. And I think Sortable is kind of assuming that every single one of your items here has like a unique ID. Hello. So the problem is these don't have unique IDs. These are not representing pieces of data from the database or something like that I'm dragging around. These are they don't exist until we actually post them somewhere. So while we're dragging and dropping them, this is not number 1 and number 2, number 3, and so it wouldn't work that way. And so what I added to this was when Sortable sends out this event that says, hey, you dropped this item, I wanted to be able to pass in some data. Video expired on Twitch archives. Okay. Video expired. Okay. So I want to be able to pass some data into this, and I wanted to do it in a somewhat normalized way. So what I did was I passed in the entire options array. So whatever gets passed into this Sortable plugin in the options hash, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second, we're passing it as the third parameter to update, and then when update emits an event with this event name, again I'll show it in a second, it's now passing that third parameter. So what does this actually look like for us? Well, let's go to app.js. Actually, no, let's first go to assignment create. So the binding is happening. Is it set.view maybe? Gosh, it's been a little while. Okay, here we go. So this right here is where we're giving a group of exercises like these right here. And we're setting the options and the event name for this sortable thing right here. And I've got to look in here so I can remember what it's called. Directive, that's what it is. I knew it wasn't a mixin. This view directive, the sortable directive, and we're passing in these options, and we're passing an event name. So what we're saying is when I drop, trigger, emit an event named this, and here are the options that we're going to pass in. And these three are actually the options that we're going to pass into Sortable. But this is just an added option that I did so that I could pass a variable from Vue into Sortable. And when I modified this vSortable.js thing, I said, hey, pass in all the options to the update so that when we're listening for this event, which remember here, the event name is exercise order changed, it can now know that its third parameter will be whatever is in this options hash, which means I now have access to the set variable. Okay, so that might be a little bit confusing. So remember, right here, we're emitting this exercise order change. So basically, we're emitting an event that said, hey, you changed the order of these exercises. We want to do something, right? So we now have a method named, or an event named exercise order changed, and it has the order, which is that thing I was talking about a minute ago that's just really confusing and you don't know what to do with it. The event, which is an actual like JavaScript event, but now we also have the options hash that we can extract any variables that we passed along with. So to show you what those three things look like, let's just take a look at them. Order, event, options. And yep. Every time I have to remember that I need to reorder. Okay, so order is this right here. My guess is that these strings right here, and again, this is just because I'm completely unfamiliar with the Sortable library, these strings are probably supposed to represent some way that we can uniquely reference each of these. So if you look at AYQ as first, that represents this one. So if I move this one to the last, the new string that you're going to see is now going to have AYQ at the end. See, so that is an identifier. My guess is this has something to do with how Sortable treats each of these as uniquely identifiable, and there's probably some way for me to turn this string using Sortable or something into something I can actually do something with. But I didn't know how. So instead, I said, well, look at the event. The event passes along two things that are really important. The one that we dragged moved from index of 0 at the top to index of 3 at the bottom. So now we know that we can have a from and a to, and that's really what we're doing basically. We're taking an array of 4 entities, or items, whatever, and we're moving something around in that array, right? And that's something you can do in JavaScript regardless of the fanciness you're doing. So the Sortable.js thing is handling the actual UI being moved, but in something like this where we're supposed to be doing data binding, you don't want to care about the UI being moved because the UI is supposed to be reflecting, hi Philip O from Twitter, the UI is supposed to be reflecting the sort of state of the data, so we need to update the data to reflect this change we just made in the UI. So since we passed in the options hash up here, nope, that was in set.view, passed in the options hash, we now have access to the set of exercises that we're working on it. And remember, a set is just basically this whole collection of exercises. So what we really want to do is change the order of the exercises. So what I'm doing here is, first of all, I've got the 2, so that's like, I moved it from position 0 to position 3, and I've got the position, and so basically I'm pulling the 1, and I'm basically moving it out. And essentially this right here, if this isn't familiar, what we're doing is basically just saying, do array manipulation in native JavaScript and pull that one from where it was and put it where it's going. There are several different Vue extensions for it. One that was just released yesterday was released after I did all this. I tried 2 other ones, and this is the one I ended up sitting on. So it's possible that the one released, or at least that was tweeted out yesterday, is better than this. I don't know, but when I started in this 2 weeks ago, I tried the 2 that were available at the time. So regardless of the extensions, this works. So it took a little while to get here, but come on, refresh. But now it's to a point where, and so here's a way we can just take a look at it. Let's just do maybe up here. Let's just do sets JSON and let it fill out. All right, I'm not going to get notified. There you go. So you can see, here are all the sets here. So watch, and that's the data, not the UI. So let me grab this right here, and you're now going to see up top, and now just change the order up here. Now we go to the next one. Yep, you go here. Yep, change the order there. So it actually is changing the data that we were working with. It was great, which means we now have what we want. And if we delete these, notice that there's the same thing we ran into this first time. I still don't know where that came from, so I need to reach out to someone who knows Vue a little better than me about why that's happening. But it's basically, actually, you know what? Let's take a look at that right now, because somebody had mentioned that I'm deleting exercises from the set using underscore, and someone had mentioned that it's possible to, there's like a $remove thing that Vue makes available to you that might not actually be having this problem. So okay, so where is this? This is going to be an exercise.vue maybe. Remove exercise. Yeah, here you go. So this is what we're doing. So someone said, so I was basically using the underscore without to pull the exercise out of the exercise. So somebody said instead do this.set.exercises. I think it was remove or something like that. Exercise. So let's see if this works and if this works without throwing this error. Because if so, then that's great. Yeah, this one right here, this is the one that at least was tweeted out, I think, yesterday, but wasn't available a couple weeks ago. So, all right, so let's see. Oh, yep, see, it's the exact same problem. A.getAttribute is not a function, and which is interesting. It's jQuery, and I don't know where jQuery is actually even being called there. Let's look at our stack trace for this. Yeah, it's jQuery the whole way up, so I don't know where that's actually. Let's see if we can see anything. It's selecting something by attribute. So Sizzle is the selector engine that jQuery uses to be. So anytime you're doing something in jQuery that's like this, this thing right here, whatever happens in here that's allowing you to select things, that's Sizzle. So Sizzle, it looks like, is trying to get the attribute of a thing. So somewhere jQuery is trying to look up something, and let's see if we see something. Attribute, trying to get the attribute. Yep. Element matcher. See if any of this is familiar. Like, where is this happening? Like, yeah, there's some jQuery handler, but the thing is, I didn't know that I was doing any jQuery anywhere. I don't know if I even knew that I had jQuery pulled in. I guess I do have jQuery, but yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why there's any jQuery happening, but it is cool to see that don't have to use underscore here, so that's nice. All right, so the next thing that I would do on this site actually would not be Vue, but it would actually be Laravel. But it's interesting to see how the two play together. So you hit save assignment, and basically what we need to do is take this massive dump of data and figure out what does it look like to turn this JSON into something actually functional. And so what it ends up being is we have a couple different pieces of data. I've got a trainee, who's the person who's getting the assignments or the exercises assigned to them. I've got a day. I've got a week. I've got sets. Each set has a number of repetitions. And then each set has a certain number of exercises. Each exercise has an order, number of reps or duration, and possibly a weight. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, and you can imagine kind of, well, what does that actually look like? And I guess I should go here and delete this now. So we're basically going to go into the controller. Where is that coming in? Is that the assignment controller store? Yeah. So we're basically dumping out the requests that we got. So let's take a look at network. We posted to it. I'm trying to zoom out up here, but it's not. There we go. So you can basically see this is the shape of what we're posting over. So it's got the day, the week, user ID, who's me, trainee ID, who's being assigned to, hello, and then this sets, and sets is an array of sets. So set 1, set 2, set 3, and each of them has repetitions and exercises. So basically we need to be able to find a way to parse that out to something useful. I don't know if I'm going to spend all the time kind of on this one. I want to do a little bit of Laravel in with my Vue.js, but essentially what we're going to be doing is saying something like, let's just pseudocode it a little bit. We've got the JSON, right? And so it's going to be something like, assignment, and the assignment, and of course it's just pseudocode, is going to pull in day, week, and it's actually going to be probably something like user assignments. I'm not sure exactly because the user's the one making the assignments, so it'd be like save, and then this that we're creating here. So what are they saving? Well, they're saving this assignment. It has a day, it has a week, it has an an assignee. So this is an integer, this is an integer, this is a relationship, and then it's going to be like a has many. So I guess one assignee maybe. I'm not sure. has many sets, and then for each set of the sets array, we would do new set. And what does the set have? It's got repetitions, which is an integer, and then it's got, interestingly, this right here is an exercise, right? Bench press is an exercise, and yet this right here is not just an exercise, it's an exercise configured a particular way. It's the bench press with 8 reps at weight of 70. So there's some kind of term that I need to come up with that represents this particular configuration of an exercise, as it is different from, if this set down here had bench press configured differently. This might be the bench press that's 155 repetitions at 12 pounds. Those are not the same thing. So I've got to figure out, if they're not the same thing, then what is that thing called? And so this would just be basically like has many of whatever that is, which is maybe like assigned exercise or something like that. And what is an assigned exercise? For each set exercises, and again, just pseudocode, then we would say new assigned exercise. Well, what is an assigned exercise? It is and it's going to have the foreign key links, to link it up to those. And this will also have the foreign key links up to those. And then it will have, I always forget whether it's has one or belongs to one or whatever. Exercise. I guess it belongs to one. And then it has the customizations, which is reps duration, which I have to figure out how to represent, which is an integer, and then it has a weight, which is an integer. So this is the general shape of what I'm going to do. And again, I'm not going to do it on this call, but basically we're going to work through this massive array of stuff and generate this assignment. And this is a pretty complex thing, right? Which is the reason this has taken so long to build this as it is just because there's a lot going on in this assignment creation. There's a lot of nested types of data that are all connected to each other. So what I would do is basically build out, I'd probably build out all of this actually in real PHP code up front, and then try and figure out what is the best structure to make that happen, because this could be a pretty long and nasty controller. The question is, do you make a service that's solely responsible for converting, JSON that's posted from Vue.js into one of these, like a create set from, or like a set assignment from JSON creator or something like that. Create giant JSON or create set from JSON. Who knows what it ends up looking like? But basically, somehow do a decent job of encapsulating the logic of taking JSON and turning it into this kind of create an entire object. But I just feel like that's going to be kind of mind-numbing to work on, and I'm not going to do that on live stream. So that's the status of TrainRemote. That's where we made it, and that's kind of what ended up happening with the whole drag and drop thing. I am curious about this, whether this ended up kind of being what I wanted it always to be. I'm curious to see. But getting the drag and drop to work wasn't actually the problem of the other ones I work with. It was getting them to appropriately handle actually changing like the core data once you dropped it. So I'm curious to see whether this one handled that. So again, I'm not going to do that right now. Okay, so that's the current status of TrainRemote. So two other things we're working on, Symposium and Suggestive. Symposium I really hadn't made much progress on. So let's go look at Suggestive and see where we are for that. As always, I'm kind of limited time, so I'm just waiting for my phone to buzz, and until then, we'll keep going. All right, so Suggestive. Yeah. So this one is a little bit of a monster. This is wanting me to teaching me that I need to learn tmux because I'm always doing this for this one. And that's just stupid. You should not have to do the same repeated thing over and over and over every single time when you're doing something. Sortable.js, yes. Yeah, I don't know if you're using it with Vue, but the Sortable.js that I did with this vSortable, I'm sorry that I can't remember who it was that gave me that original implementation, but it's very simple. I mean, I guess you can't see it now, but the vSortable, this is the whole thing. This is the entire directive that he gave me, and it made it pretty possible to do it because you basically end up emitting an event with pretty much all the data you could possibly need. And of course, I came in and hacked it, but it's so simple. It's not like to feel bad like I'm monkey patching something complex or something. So it worked out okay. It took me a little while to learn it, though. You can watch some of the old ones of this to see me thrashing around trying to figure out how to do it. Yeah, everyone I know tells me Tmux is the way to go. I think I've finally reached the point where I'm like, this right here can't keep going. I can't do this. And then I'm ending up doing like, tail, storage log, Laravel log. And I usually have these, and then I'm like doing PHP unit here. So it's just kind of like, and I have to spin these up every single time. It's crazy. So, okay. So let's take a look at the current status of suggestive. So what I had started doing last time was I started adding an admin panel. So originally what we did was, oh, what happened there? Function does not exist. I merged some pull requests from some folks earlier that looked good, and I'm kind of getting the sense that they might not have been good. Somebody did a pull request earlier asking me to do this right here, which I don't think was the normal way to do it, but let's just take a look. Oh, I guess that was it. So I'll have to look up later why that's the case, but yeah, I fixed it. So all right, so let's log in with GitHub. Yeah, well, if you're using the plain Sortable.js library with Vue, you've got to have some way for once you like drop the sortable information when you drop it, somehow it has to update the data because like when you're doing two-way data binding, your UI you can't just trust that any changes that some external library makes to your UI is now going to get reflected in the original data. So you have to do some synchronization process. And so it's not as if I'm using some crazy plugin or package or something like that. I just basically, it was a convenience layer that makes it a little bit easier the directive makes it easier to both bind Sortable.js on your Vue stuff in a more Vue-y way, but it also makes it easier to do the emit events up into Vue in a way that it makes it easier to update your kind of core data models when those changes are happening. So, all right. So what we did last time was, see, maybe I think what I need to do was, go into my user account and change my user to be a user. I don't know which one of these is me, so let's just do this. So this is the admin panel for the normal user. They can suggest topics, and they can vote up topics. And so the next thing we're working on is wanting to give a specific dashboard to the admin users. So a few things that they need to be able to do are, one, look at any unflagged topics and flag them. And so you can accept it, you can reject it, you can mark it as a duplicate. So I built these out. All three of these worked. Yeah, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. Check out this thing. I'll try and put a link to somebody later, but I mean, you can literally see the entirety of the Vue.js. But just set timeouts and that kind of stuff. You're going to get into race conditions, and I mean, yeah, it'll work, but just get ready for pain. So okay, so cool. So here, accept, reject, mark as duplicate. So what these ones do. Let's get into our app.js. That actually is probably going to be admin dashboard.view. All right, accept topic, reject topic, mark topic as duplicate. So if you were around one of the last times I was broadcasting, you would have seen that people are saying, well, have you not done this level of abstraction? Or why aren't you using this one or that and the other? And I said, I don't want to add a level of abstraction based on the prediction that I'm going to need it in the future. I want to write the code that I need in the moment, and when I hit the point where I hit the pain point, then I write the abstraction. So that's one of the things I did here. First thing I did was I wrote accept topic, and it looked basically just like this. And so what we're doing is we're patching topics, we're passing the topic ID, we're changing the status to be a particular status. At that point, I literally just wrote the word accepted here, and then we're updating our kind of parent thing to remove the topic out of it. But then, and that button worked, and it was good, and it was great, so I hit accept topic, and that marks it accepted. Then I went to write reject topic, copied it, and realized I was writing exactly the same code, except for this right here was just a word different. And then I said, okay, we've found an appropriate place to do an extraction. Now we're going to have a method called flag topic, and then the rest of these three are going to kind of use it. But oftentimes you find yourself building a flag topic before you've actually run into the pain point that you're predicting, and then the two things are so different that you end up having to build like 10,000 conditionals in a flag topic, and it was better if they were just separate. So, or if you extract little pieces out of it. In here, it ended up being a good extraction. So 3 methods available: accept topic, reject topic, mark topic as duplicate, and then we got buttons that trigger them. So I've got a pull request before I go any further. We got a pull request that I wanted to take a look over while we're on this call, and so I can review it and see if it's something we're interested in bringing in. So the first one was this thing right here. Interestingly, what he did was that change that I just made. This was actually working fine for me beforehand, and I feel like I've run it this way all the time. I don't know if I'm crazy. I'll have to go back and watch some videos. But whatever problem Marcus Moore 88 was running into, I did just run into right now when I tried to go to localhost 8000 without making that change. So whatever it is, I think I might just be nuts because doing it like this doesn't seem to work. Yeah, thanks, Marcus. Because you go here, and this is not working. But I didn't make any changes to this code for ages, and it worked just fine before. I have no idea. So let's just do this, and it works. So thanks, Marcus. I'm going to merge this one in. And Pedro, if you have any understanding of why it was working for you clearly and it was working for me and it's not now, I'm sure there's just like some condition or weird thing that I've just forgotten about. But either way, it works now. So I got this one from Weebly saying that the router actually has some methods available on it for handling what happens when the data hasn't loaded and teaching the router, here's the data that needs to be loaded when this page loads. So you walk through his pull request and you can see he has this thing where there's basically this magic variable that's set, loading route data. And so this, you do this for your loading instead of, well, it's interesting because, where is it? I think he might have wiped my thing that said no votes or no topics. Maybe not, maybe that's somewhere, oh, that's above. Okay, so this is not replaced. Oh yeah, no unflagged topics is still there because this has nothing to do with the data. But this is just saying if it's still loading, you can put a little spinner graphic or something. And then here we can say if it's not still loading, group and get signatures are different. Yeah, that's what I figured it must have been. Because you can see that in routes.php, I've got the group syntax doing the same thing, where you got the array and then the function. I thought for sure I'd done it in Git, but I guess not. I must be crazy. So. So it looks like a lot has changed here in this pull request from Weebly, but really it's just basically adding this concept and then wrapping with a div that says, if it's loading, show loading screen. If it's not loading, then show the thing. That's really what's going on here. And then let's go on down to the code. He moved get unflagged topics out of, because right here, what's really going is in created, we're running a function that you could name get unflagged topics. And we're setting that onto, this, the prop, right, or the data up here. And what he moved it into is instead he made it a method so that this method, and you wouldn't need this line anymore, this method can be run anytime you need to get the unflagged topics. And then this route definition has the idea of basically returning a promise and saying get this and then set it. And there must be some magic in Vue that knows this route data when the promises are not resolved, any promises that you've returned in there, then you set this loading route data. So this is cool because you've got this loading idea. It's cool because you're using the Vue router like it looks like it's intended to be used. I actually don't like it, and that's not bad to Weebly. I am very thankful that I know how to do this. I'm thankful I know it exists, and I probably will use it. What I don't like about it is it turns it from something very simple, which is when it's created, pull this data, into something that's a little more complicated. We've got an abstraction layer. You're used to this being set in the callback, but instead it's not, and you're returning a promise, which is a little bit confusing. And then, then you're returning a promise and the promise. And so I feel like before I merge this pull request, I'm probably gonna take it and do a little bit of rewriting and see if there's a way for me to get the benefit of doing things this way in a way that is a little more clear. And I understand you can't always just stay like everything looking super simple. But this is a nesting of a few different pieces that, while I understand what's going on, it feels like everything reads a little bit less clearly, and that's a priority for me. So I'm going to return to this at another time, make sure I understand it, and regardless of whether or not I use it, Weebly, thank you for sending that pull request. It's really useful stuff. So let's go into the admin panel and see if I have any more time left. So far it looks like I do. what are the kind of things we want to do? Well, we want them to be able to look at an unflagged topic. So somebody suggested a topic, and we want them to be able to act on it, accept it, reject it, or mark it as duplicate. Let's accept it. So the next thing for me, and we can actually look at features.markdown. What other things? So these X's are showing that I allowed them to be able to do that within the API. But now let's talk about being able to do all these with the UI. Can a user authenticate via GitHub? Yep. Suggest a topic? Yep. See a list of all suggested topics? Yep. Vote up a topic. So these all actually exist in the UI. Can an owner list all unflagged topics in the UI? Yes. Can they list all yes will do topics? No. And yes will do we've now renamed to accepted. So let's and will not do we renamed as rejected. So the next one is list all accepted topics so that they can start doing planning. So the whole point of accepting this topic is, hey, that's a really great idea. We should talk about it on our podcast. Now it's time for the podcast. Let's look at that list. So we need somehow to build the ability for somebody to actually look at all the topics that they've accepted. Notice that I renamed home to unflagged topics. So one of the things we need to figure out here is unflagged topics and accepted topics, are they two different pages, or are there like little tabs and filters up top? I know normally when you're like, look, it's a topics page, you're just filtering by status. We tend to think of it as being the type of thing where it's one page with filters. But more and more these days, I'm thinking about less about like how we think about the data structure as programmers, and more about how the end user thinks about the purpose of what they're doing at any given moment. I'm sorry, it's dry in Chicago. I'm going to put on some chapstick. So that being the case, I'm more likely to think about having two really unique pages, because you're sitting down and you're seldom thinking, oh, I'm going to look at topics and I'll just filter them different ways. Rather, you're saying I'm either A, sitting down to filter unflagged topics until I get to the point where there's no unflagged topics, or B, trying to look at all of our accepted topics to figure out what to talk about. They're two kind of different purposes. So not only does that match the mindset of the user a little bit better, but it means when you have to ask UI questions about like, well, what should the layout look like, you can answer them based on what is the user planning to do here. And if you've got one big complicated page that's meant to do 10 different things, it's very hard to answer those questions. What is the user intending to do? What's their view going to look like? Because it depends on which of the 10,000 different reasons we expect them to be in this page. Whereas if there's two different pages, unflagged topics, accepted topics, they're two entirely different things, we have a little bit more flexibility. So right now, we are going to build a new page that is called accepted topics, which is interesting because we've called this admin dashboard.view. That's not really what it is anymore. This is really the unflagged topics page. So now I've got to figure out what structure are we going to use, because right here what we're seeing is if they're admin, dashboard equals the admin dashboard. If they're not an admin, dashboard equals the user dashboard, right? But this isn't really admin dashboard anymore. It's really what I really want to do, to be honest with you, is get rid of the concept of admin dashboard entirely. And if an admin visits the root route, it should automatically redirect them to unflagged topics. So that's something for us to learn, is that the concept of the view router of automatic redirects. Because I'd rather, instead of this, I would like it to say, like var dashboard equals something that automatically redirects them. That's what I want. So I want to be able to define that this right here is a redirect. So let's look up the view router docs and just really briefly see if that concept even exists in view routers documentation in general. My guess is no, because a redirect doesn't seem to be the type of thing that they're doing. But let's just look. And if anybody knows, please let me know. I'm kind of expecting, yes. Cool. Redirection routes for the router before matching the current path. If the redirection is found, the originally visible path will simply be skipped and not redirect in the router history. So this is janky, but let's just try it. So we can't do that entirely because we need a component dashboard to be available. Let's say this. Dashboard's always dashboard. Instead, I feel like I have so much. Okay. Instead, we would just say router.redirect. Do I have a router yet? Probably not. I don't. Let's go there. Router.redirect And we're basically, we're not actually saying redirect, we're defining a router redirect rule here, that's all. Call the page suggested topics because unflagged topics sounds especially, yes. Yeah, that suggested, I actually like that a lot. Nice work, C12H22O11 UK. I'm still learning Twitch culture, but one of the things I've learned in Twitch culture is having readable usernames is not necessarily a priority. I'm sitting here with Matt Stauffer, and you're all like, that's cool though. That's fine. Thank you. Good idea. All right. So if redirect any navigation to /A to /B, that means we want to say redirect any navigation to /. So right now we're going to call it suggested topics, and we'll have to rename things from unflagged topics. But I like that a lot. It's a really good idea. The reason I feel weird is that we are, based on a configuration parameter, making changes to the core of how everything's defined. This makes me nervous. I don't know exactly how to do it differently. Sugar, that is really clever. Thank you. I think that you were born on April 3rd, 1991. I can handle that one. But Mrs. or Mr. Sugar requires more brain power than I have. So, okay. So this feels a little janky to me. I'm a little uncomfortable with doing it this way. We're going to work on it this way, but I want to, I want to keep thinking about, is there a better way to kind of perform this? But right now, let's just see if it works. So that means we need a suggested topics page, which needs to be only available to admins. And once again, we're running into this whole confusing access kind of control thing. So we need to do this. And again, we're going to rename this admin dashboard shortly. But let's just do this. Okay, so my expectation here, I was right. My expectation here is that everybody can access suggested topics, which we don't want. So let's just do a new note. To constrain to admin only. This route is always the dashboard, regardless. It's always the user dashboard. But if you're not an admin, if you're an admin, you'll get redirected out of the suggested topics page. And hopefully nothing else is any different. So let's run it. It's almost definitely not going to work, but we're going to just try it and just see what happens. Oh, it just worked, just like that. That was magic. All right, so let's go rename unflagged topics to suggested topics everywhere. It's just such a great idea, suggested topics. Where else do we have it? It's in the nav, which is going to be in home blade PHP. It's not on flagged topics. As you see, we have more conditionals in here. We're doing blade conditionals to figure out which nav sections you see here. Things are the amount of switching we're doing based on user as admin versus not feels really janky, and I'm really tempted to just separate it out to two entirely different navs, two entirely different kind of app definitions. But again, I'm not quite there, but I'm almost there. So suggested topics. All right, suggested topics links to suggested topics, and if an admin tries to go to this page, they can't. That's good. Now let's make me a user and see what happens. The problem is users have access to suggested topics. So the next question is, how do we, is there any kind of idea of, I'm wondering if they use a before each, or I can think of a lot of ways in JavaScript to do this, but what I'm trying to figure out is, what is the idiomatic view router way of, ooh, I see auth. In addition to the built-in properties, custom fields defining the route config will also be merged onto the route object. For example, auth true, router before each. Huh. All right, so this is saying before every transition, So this transition clearly contains a to thing, and the to thing is the route definition of what it's working on. So my guess is if this to will probably have something on it that I can match against if it is this suggested topics thing. However, I could also just use this thing that they're using the docs, which is admin only. That's actually really curious. So if I go to router.map down here, I just add a flag that says admin only true. And that's a custom thing. And so just like he was writing in the documentation, I would say if transition to, so if we're navigating to a page that has the admin only flag, then I'd basically like, and this is, we got to figure out how do you stop it. I bet you there's a router.stop or something. Router.stop. This is why this is such a freaking fantastic framework, because this isn't actually what I want. This is stop it. It's just like, I don't know, just things make so much sense. What would be the best way to halt navigation? I don't want to stop the entire, this right here actually stops the entire router. I don't want to do that. I just want to halt a transition. So maybe deactivate transition, is that a thing? Called on a leaving component of the activation. Called on the leaving component. No, this is a deactivation. I want this to tell me how do you cancel a transition. Anybody? Anybody know? About to start Googling random things. Well, first of all, let's just see if this is actually working the way I'm expecting. Yes, this is an admin-only route you are navigating to. We're also logging the arguments just so we can get a sense of what does this actual transition object look like. So my hope is that every single time I navigate to a new thing with Vue Router, I'm going to get this. Yes, this is an admin-only route that you're navigating to. Interestingly, all of a sudden nothing's showing up on this page. Why is that? So something about this route right here is maybe if you don't return true, it doesn't work. That would be really nice. Huh. Okay, let's try returning true at the end and see if that's what it is. If so, we should get pull request in documentation because that was not clear. If we return true, the page loads. If we turn false, the page does not load. Look at this, spirit fingers. We did that. So now, well, let's look at the arguments we get past there. Okay, there's only one argument, and it is this transition argument. Transition argument has an abort function. Look at this, it's so glorious. It's got a to, which is the route definition that you're navigating to. Exactly. It's got, I bet you it's got a from. It has a from, which is the one you're coming away from. And next, and a redirect. Look at all these. So interestingly, it's got this navigate.abort, but is there a difference between running? So here, like, if suggestive dot is admin, it looks like you could do this, right? Return false, and then that's it. But he's also got this transition dot abort thing. I'm very curious, what is transition dot abort? So let's try it. That's weird. Suggest topic should always be available. Okay, suggest topic page is working fine. Home. Now let's go to suggested topics. Aborting, and it redirects. Oh, okay, so if you return false, it doesn't load the route, but there's a difference between returning false and aborting. So if you return false on the this page, right here, I'm gonna refresh. Yeah, suggested topics. If you return false, no, wait, am I crazy? Did I not save that? Let's try this again.